Nguyen is an entrepreneur, an innovation and market leader. She is the co-founder of Crunchmoms, the first and only dedicated professional platform in the Middle East for women at all stages of their careers and motherhood. A Texan with Vietnamese roots, she has lived across continents and gathered 10 plus years of experience in brand marketing and digital transformation along the way. Nguyen, welcome to the LifeLab. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's great to see you again because we used to work together many years ago.
It's been a really long time.
Yeah.
I'm happy to see you.
Me too. I can't believe all the things that you've done since we worked together. And I want to, in the intro, we've talked about Crunchmoms, but and we'll talk about how you founded it and everything today in the interview. But you just had a big summit this week, right? How did it go?
Yeah, we just had our second Crunchmoms Summit, and the summit just covered all things that women want to talk about, you know, whether it's our health, whether it's financial independence and freedom, the realities of being a working parent. We've covered all topics, and it was phenomenal. We had 2 days of, I think, around 300 attendees.
I saw pictures online. I mean, it looked, you know, first of all, super well attended and just like a beautiful setup and very, you know, engaged. Like the attendees seemed like they were really into it. And
yeah, I think it's not like your typical conference or summit that's, you know, a bit stuffy and whatnot. It was like energetic, super inspiring,
vibrant.
It looked the
really
space was beautiful. The
Yeah.
people were super inspired and just giving off the right vibe. And then speakers they would share super honestly, which I think hit home with a lot of people.
That's what I love the most is like summits and speakers who are really authentic. I mean, and you know, especially if they're they've a bit of flexibility and they're not maybe from the corporate world, they can talk very candidly, and you know, especially around topics for women in their careers and things. That must have been really cool.
Yeah, I mean, we covered everything from, you know, working to having your own business as an entrepreneur, but it's all about the stories of the people, just kind of like your podcast here. It's all about the stories that really connects everyone. And I think everyone's going through the same thing. So why not talk about it in an open space?
That's true.
It's a different experience when you're all together in a room talking about it. So very happy about the summit.
And when I saw, you know, when you founded or co-founded Crunchmoms, I remember kind of looking it up and thinking, oh, is it just for moms? But it's not just for moms, right? It's for any woman who's like working in the region and moms as well.
Yeah, and it started off with the emphasis on moms because there were not enough platforms or networks out there. And it started from my own experience of becoming a mother and just kind of, whoa, what's happening here? There's nowhere to go for that support around all things career, around things motherhood, and it doesn't end once you become a mother. And so as we've grown, you know, we've made it very clear it's for all women. It's for all people that believe in women or women in transition, moms, parents. And so that's something that we're working on making sure that it's super clear that it's for moms and more.
Just women in general, that are working here in the region. So Julie, you have 2 boys now, which is crazy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think we were babies when we worked together, you know, in our early 20s.
Yeah, well, you were. I was a little bit older.
In our 20s.
Yeah, I was in my 20s too. Yeah.
You were.
But I was.
Yeah.
But anyway, but you have 2 little boys now.
Yeah. So a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old.
That's amazing.
They're everything.
They're gorgeous.
Oh,
They're
so
I mean,
much.
honestly, you've made a beautiful family. I remember when you got engaged. I can't believe it. Like isn't time goes by.
Yeah.
Like that, doesn't
30s are definitely different from 20s, and I look forward to the 40s after learning from all these women at the summit.
Really,
we covered a lot of things.
That's so cool.
Not talked about enough.
Well, we're going to talk about it a bit, but I want to kind of figure out, you know, share with the listeners, because obviously you have a very diverse background. You've lived in multiple continents, and you grew up in Texas, and your family are originally from Vietnam.
Correct.
How did you end up coming to Dubai?
Yeah, so basically I'm born and raised in Austin, Texas. So I had never lived outside of, I would say it was not a small town, but not a big place either. And when I graduated, I always kind of agreed with my parents that once I've graduated, then I can go live kind of abroad or live somewhere else in the US. And the opportunity came to move to Dubai for an internship.
Okay. Was that
just in Dubai, just with a real estate startup company here.
okay?
And I knew one person out here, did a bit of due diligence, probably not as much, but kind of just knew that it was a safe place for women.
Yeah.
So I think that was the first question that I had and that my parents had, that how is it if she were to go by herself? And so kind of just took a chance. Yeah, took a chance. I came with 2 suitcases. I didn't know anyone.
You were super young. What age were you?
I moved out here when I was 21.
God.
Yeah, thinking about it now. But
That's
I remember at the
young,
time thinking, if I don't do this now, when will I ever get this chance? And whatever happens, happens.
And that was probably the minimum age that you could have moved here on your own, right?
Yeah,
Because you
I
have
think
to be
so.
21. Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I just graduated, so it was all about just getting experience and just life learnings.
Yeah,
I kind of
yeah.
just followed my instincts, and I hadn't really traveled much. Like I don't think I'd really traveled much around the US. And so for me, I was kind of on an adventure, came out here and just kind of was figuring it out. But I knew that it was for work, right? And I wanted to stay for the opportunities here, and kind of said, give myself a 2-year mark, as with everyone else did. You know, that famous line.
15 years later, you're still here.
I can't believe it's been that long, but it's my home now.
It is, yeah.
So, I mean, I came out here for my first job, and I just continued following my instincts. You know, the internship was good exposure, and then it led to another opportunity, which was another agency, which then eventually became Edelman, where we met.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just, there was a thought at some point about going back after the internship.
Going back to the States.
Back to the States, to be closer to family, because I'd never left my family, right? And I just started to build my own network out here. I started enjoying the life here. And I just kept telling myself, just learn from this, from the work experience. And, coming out here in 2009, it was a different type of Dubai,
And that was just not after the 2000.
It was right after the crash. So it was a bit quiet, but I didn't know. I mean, you heard about it. But it wasn't as mature as it is today.
No.
And yeah, I think I could see that it was safe. I could see that there were opportunities here. And I think for me, I just went from there. Yeah. And I'm so glad I did, because it's made me an even more well-rounded person because of the diversity of people that you meet here, the type of experience that you get. You kind of have to be in control of figuring out what to do with your career here, and there's endless opportunities.
That's what I was going to ask you about, actually, because do you think, people... I've been here kind of around the same length of time as you have, and worked across the region in Saudi here. Do you think that the Middle East has, particularly good opportunities for women in their careers? I mean, I think there's a perception outside of the region that it wouldn't be like that, but I actually think it really is.
I think there's definitely opportunities. I think that, the things that you can get exposure to, whether it's for multinational or for the government or in the startup entrepreneurial space or nonprofits, there's definitely a lot of job opportunities here. I would say that it comes down to the individual, kind of how they make use of all of these opportunities. I think that whether someone is maybe a mother, there's obviously some points that can be difficult when you're a mom raising kids, but there's also a lot of support that you get in this part of the world that you don't get
anywhere else.
Like the safety, the convenience of when you go places, the delivery services, the support at home, the nannies, the help, the childcare is just
so different.
Fantastic. Yeah. It's a strong support system, and there's a lot more that you can do with it. Yes, you can have your village at home in the sense of your family and whatnot, but it's a different kind of help here, but a good kind of help. So I think from, the lens of like a mother, there's endless opportunities of what you can do here. I think as a woman, I think there's always that perception if someone hasn't been in the region or lived here that, you don't have as many opportunities. And I would definitely disagree with that. I think there are stats out there that they're not, I think the Middle East region has like the lowest number of women in the job market compared to the rest of the world.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think from World Economic Forum, from probably this is a stat from maybe like 3 years ago from when I first started Crunchmoms. But I think that's evolving. I mean, the opportunities and the incentives that they're giving women to either start businesses or or to go back to the workplace, there's definitely a lot of opportunities. And I think what's happening in Saudi, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm an expert in Saudi, but you know, this place is growing. And I think there's endless opportunities. I would say looking at my time like in the US, I would say work-life style is definitely, I mean, you work a lot here versus like in the US.
This is what I think is that there's a big misconception about that, because I always feel people outside of the Middle East think, oh, you know,
take it easy, kind of
you guys
go
like go to the beach and you have it, but I feel here you work a lot more hours. Like there's a lot more.
I definitely think so.
Yeah, and over weekends and, you know, in the evenings, like people
all the time, you know,
just basically like, 20, you always have to be available and work. Like I've definitely,
with WhatsApp and emails and everything kind of merging, there's always some way of being online. And I think in the US, and at least as well my time in the Netherlands, that there are just clear kind of cutout times, like culture, like that's you it's like, just don't email after this.
And you know, their holidays, it's a holiday, people are not gonna answer.
Correct.
You know?
They set very clear boundaries, and it's not like just for women, it's just
everybody.
For all.
Yeah, exactly. It's just culturally, that's what it's like there. Whereas here, I feel that
we work a lot here.
We just work a lot here, yeah.
Which I think is a good thing, because there's a lot of opportunity. I think as individuals, we obviously just have to learn how to set some boundaries and look after our mental well-being. Exactly.
And your family, obviously, if you're, you know, there has to be an understanding around that if you've as well got responsibilities outside of work that you have to take care of and things like that. But,
exactly. But, so there's a lot of opportunities here. I think it's a place to be. I don't know any other market like this region here right now.
I mean, I completely agree with you about that. And I think, you know, you said, so you've worked, I mean, you grew up in the States, you've worked here, you worked in the Netherlands too. Do you think that culturally, you know, from those different continents, that women approach their careers differently? Or do you notice a difference in?
I think maybe I would, if I had to say so, just from my own personal experience and kind of observations, that it's maybe more linear than here. Like, I think that it's in the US, you can either go to work or you're at home raising your kids. It depends on like the financial situation. It depends on many factors. I think in the Netherlands, you see more women working in the workplace, and there are clear boundaries spent. But I feel like the ambition is different here.
The ambition,
yeah, definitely. I mean, when I see like my observations of working in the corporate world in the Netherlands is I saw women in the senior levels. I saw women, you know, in the workplace, and it was, I would say, balanced.
Okay.
But I would say, you know, it was kind of what we talked about before. It was the culture. It's like, don't call me after this time. No emails. I won't respond on these holidays. Whereas here, if you can find the opportunities for yourself, the ambition, like there's just endless opportunities. Like so many things that you can create or build from scratch as a business. I think from a corporate landscape, you're in a corporate environment, but there's still opportunities here that are just kind of untapped versus there's more structure and you kind of have to go with the processes that in a mature market, like in Europe and the US.
Or in the US. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Even in my own career, I mean, I feel like through
different trajectory, right?
Yeah, and just through sheer hard work that I got opportunities that even if I'd probably worked the exact same amount in Europe or in more structured, mature markets, I wouldn't have had those opportunities. You know, I think it's, if you work hard and you perform, you're ambitious, there are more opportunities here.
Yeah, and there's opportunities to kind of just raise your hand and say, I can start to look after this opportunity. If there's a strategic priority, I feel like you can raise your hand for it. Whereas in other markets, I think there's less kind of like creating something from scratch.
Yeah. And less sort of.
It sounds very broad, but I'm just trying to go into like seeing that there are opportunities, so many more endless opportunities here versus other markets that, you know, they're mature. Right?
And it's a little bit more rigid around, you know, there's a bit more rigidity around, oh, you can't, no, that's what I do. Or no, we don't do things like this, you know, whereas here it's more people are open to, I think, exploring and
not
trying
as much
things.
Red tape around everything.
Exactly.
Definitely. So I think it's an exciting time to be here. And I think there's a great support network and ecosystem here, especially for women in this part of the world.
And so you talked a little bit about what inspired you to start Crunchmoms with your co-founder. But so I think a lot of people, well, from some of the comments that we get, the listeners are also people who are interested in entrepreneurialism and even have their own ambitions. And they, you know, I think it's interesting for them to hear about challenges that shaped a leader's journey. Were there any things in particular when you were trying to set up Crunchmoms, like challenges that you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so I think there's always going to be challenges. Challenges. And I guess the optimist in me already said the word opportunities. I think looking back of when I had started Crunchmoms, which by the way was inspired by my son and that whole experience, which I can share in a bit. But I would say there were the optimist in me saying opportunities. I think the challenges are, I would say, that I can recall is just dealing with people that just didn't align with me. And not just like agreeing or disagreeing with me. It's the values and the culture of what I wanted to create with Crunchmoms. You know, with Crunchmoms, it's very much based on a community. You're supporting women. And so to truly support women, you have to have these right values in place as a leader, but as people running it. Mm-hmm. And there are times when you just deal with people that just do not see eye to eye in doing good for a community or for the people in the organization, and that maybe they were looking after themselves, or perhaps there were people in the network that were just kind of using the network for their own, for themselves. And so I won't go into specifics of stories, but I think what I've learned, and I'm sure it's covered a lot, but honestly, if you stick to your values and knowing, you know, this is not aligned, or you stick to your values and then also just trust your gut that you have to make decisions very quickly when these alignments are not in line with what you're all about. I think, especially when you're running a network, you know, it could make or break
the network.
I wouldn't say break, but it could impact in a negative way, just like being in a corporate environment, just like anything that's happening at home. And so I would say there will be characters in life, right? But also in business that you have to be really strong as a founder to make a decision. Yeah, you have to be tough. And I think for me, I'm a very caring, giving, always seeing the bright side of everything. And I never want to hurt or offend anyone. And I had to learn, you know, to stand up for myself and to stand up for what my values are. And so I always stay close to that in decisions that I make. And they can be hard, right? And what I've learned is, as much as it impacts me as an individual, to make sure that I let go of that energy, because you have to focus your energy on building your business on the people that matter, rather than spend it on people that are going to be draining it. And so there've been some hard, you know, challenges along the way of just people that were not a right fit, which still is hard for me. When I even think about it a little bit, I get upset about it, but I just know that you make the right decision. So I would say, stick to your values and trusting your gut, because a lot of business and a lot of entrepreneurship a lot of it is trust and working with people that it's so easy for one or two people to just kind of really impact a founder.
That's really...
I felt like, just to share, I hope it helps, because it's it does, kind of broad, but like not going into
because you can't,
detail.
There's things that you can't, that are, you're just kind of sharing the learnings of what you were going through then about the challenges. And I think that, like you said, it's obviously when you're a founder and you're an entrepreneur and you're starting your business, you're going to have people that put you down a lot. I think that's one of the key things, you know, like to anyone who's really successful, is that they have resilience to that, and that they just don't let it affect them, and they let it go and keep moving towards it because they believe in what they're trying to do.
Definitely. And I think it's having a support network, right? That you can go to bounce ideas, like a sounding board. And I think it's easy when you're in the corporate place to maybe have some of these mentors or a friend at the office.
But when you're on your
own, or with a small team, it's about trust, right? Who is it that you can trust and know that their values are in line with you? So when you ask for their advice, that you're like, okay, they agree with me, not because they want to agree with me, but because they know this is the right thing to do. Yeah.
And you had just had your son, your first baby, right? When you founded Crunch Moms.
So when I first started Crunch Moms, I was still working in my corporate job. I was in a global digital transformation role, and I learned a lot from that experience. It's like being in a startup, but also with a bit of that corporate support and budget. And so when I started Crunch Moms, I had my first son, and I had a little bit of a longer maternity leave. And so during that time, I just kept wondering, how am I going to approach going back to work? I didn't have a place to go to. I didn't really have that support in my work environment. So I just started speaking to other women that were working or other women that just had kids. And then I realized that no one knew where to go for this kind of support, right? And
what like kind of support of like how to balance your career and being a new mom? And
it's like, what am I going to do with my career? Because I think once you have a baby, you don't realize. Like I always thought, oh, what's the big deal? You just go back to work and you get some help. But there's a different thing. You change as a person when you become a mother, and so then your priorities change. You want to be there for them if they need you, if they're unwell, but then also
you just want to be there.
You want to be there, but also you don't want to let go of all this that you've worked for with your ambition and your career. And so it was, how did you, like speaking to people about how did you go through it? What were the other stories? How to approach some of these conversations with your employers around, transitioning back? Is it part-time? Is it then evolving to full-time? I mean, I remember people telling me, don't do part-time because once you're a part-timer, you're always a part-timer. You get paid less, you still work as much, and you're not valued as much. Or perhaps like don't take too long of a break because they won't be giving the opportunities to you. And so it's kind of positioned in a way that's like, you're going to succeed punished, when you come back. Exactly. Yeah. And so I decided, well, if there's nothing out there, how can I just start to build this network or this community, at least to start, of just speaking to other women that are ambitious.
Which is ironic because, I mean, that's way more work than going back to the corporate
which I started
job.
to learn. Like at a certain points, like when things are tough, sometimes I would think, why don't I just help myself rather than trying to help a whole community of women? But then when things go well, I'm like, look at the impact that we're making. Yeah. So it definitely has its moments when I go back and forth, but that's why I still try to make sure I take care of myself and my family, but also having a strong team that I work with when we build this. But to go back to what you said, I said, what are the attributes that we need in a community? I knew that, I think for the first time, I think when I was on maternity leave, I went for coffee at like 10 in the morning. And I just thought, this is so strange to just sit here and have coffee and chit chat where I'm used to just getting work done. And it was, I mean, it sounds like a really nice leisurely thing.
I totally get that.
It was strange. And so then it just, I wasn't sure. And then, so I just started building, a name that could resonate with moms. That's what I wanted to help and to begin with myself, but then others to understand what is it can we do around this. And the more I spoke to, the more I realized a lot of women out there are going through the same, whether it's they have young kids, older kids, whether they're in their 40s or 50s, they're all facing it.
The same issues.
And so just started building something from scratch. What is a name out there? What kind of brand we wanted to create? What kind of values we instilled, starting with something that was cost effective. So creating a Facebook group with just 100 people to talk about what was going on. I think from my experience before, like building programs from scratch, in the corporate world, and this is where I talked about there's opportunities where you can lead things here in this part of the world that maybe you couldn't elsewhere.
Okay, yeah.
I took in that experience and said, let's build something from scratch, be very genuine with every intention. And I think the key was just be consistent with what we were doing. Because at the same time, I'd be distracted with a baby. A baby needing me, a first-time mom. That baby would grow into a 1-year-old, 2-year-old. And so I was still learning from my own experience, but I was really passionate about it. I was like, there was this fire in me. Like the moment I would finish work in my full-time job, I would spend time with my son. And then I would just switch back on and
start doing
Crunchmoms. Yeah.
In the evenings.
And I think my husband could see that there was
something there.
And I think, when I would speak to people, they were just like, what is it? What are you doing? I didn't have the answers for everything, but I just kept focused and kept consistent. And one thing that I would create, whether it was a post or one new follower. And when you start small, you know, it's like, it's funny to think like even just a few hundred, there's still people, right?
Of course. And even if one person you make a difference to them, it's value, it's meaningful.
Yeah. And I think what I took away from this is I didn't have to spend much money, right? I didn't have money to spend on it. And so for me, it was just using what we could. So created a Facebook group and making sure that it was unique from other Facebook groups, right? The way that everyone would introduce themselves, there was just these touching introductions that women were making, that I would just read them and just, you know, it gets emotional. Yeah. And then these were impressive women working for massive organizations or that had a break and then went back. And so everyone had such a strong story. And so we just kept elevating that as we grew. Then from the Facebook group, we turned it into, you know, a WhatsApp group. We had a members area, and everything we just grew slowly by slowly. But it was just about being consistent, you know, and it wasn't about being the biggest and the best immediately, but making sure that these are real people that we're trying to help. And, you know, we didn't even have offerings yet, you know, we didn't have coaching yet when we first started. It was just bringing them together. And when you would bring the women together, you could see that there was a clear There was an impact. There was an impact. There was a clear pain point that everyone was going through. And there was a clear impact that was being made just by being together.
And can you share some stories about, you know, the impacts that you feel Crunchmoms has made on some of the members' lives? Like anything that you could share?
Yeah. Oh, gosh, there's so many. There's one member that she worked in Asia for a long time. She's from Europe, worked in Asia for like head of investments for like a family office, and then relocated here with her husband and her 2 kids. And for the first time in her life, didn't have a bank account under her name because she relocated with her husband. She wasn't sure about the opportunities here. A friend introduced her to Crunchmoms. She started coming to our events. Then she went through our Designing Your Life coaching program, which is a 6-week program that was started at Stanford to redesign her life. She was trying to figure out, do I consider like a passion project around photography? Do I just be a stay-at-home mom? Or do I pursue work? But, you know, the opportunities here are very different in Asia. But basically, she was just creating 3 different scenarios of what her life could look like. And, you know, I could see in her that there was lacking some confidence, or, you know, she was trying to figure out what to do. And I would say, looking at her now, she connected with someone at our event. She went through our coaching program, decided she's going to pursue like the financial route again. She's still active in the workplace, and she's a financial advisor. She has flexibility and part-time. She's still there with her kids doing her passion project also on the side. And then she still comes to our events all the time. And I mean, just seeing the contrast from before and after.
So it was basically a bit of a lifeline for her when she moved here then. And she did this. Tell me about the program. So it's a 6 weeks program, Design Your Life.
Designing Your Life. It's essentially off the framework of design thinking, which is used in the startup world to create a lot of the tech businesses we know today. These 2 Stanford professors said, why can't we take the same approach, but help people design a life that's more meaningful? So you design a life, and that's including your work, that's including, you know, your career, but also your life and how you want to live it. And there's a wheel of life that kind of looks at everything. And you look at your life in 3 different scenarios. Like if money was not an issue, then what would my life be?
Okay.
If time was not an issue, what would you be doing? And a lot of people have these aha moments that, you know, they're in control of their own life, so they can, you know, change it and find the right opportunities. And I think seeing her is amazing, because she always talks to us about how like it's really changed her life. And it's like, I think her exact words were like, if she doesn't come to Crunchmoms, it's like not brushing her teeth, you know, or not going to the gym.
Oh,
like
my
she
God.
needs it kind of start her week to get some new networks, contacts, inspiration, but also it's led to all of these opportunities for her. So that's a really nice one.
That's a really good one. And 6 weeks, is it every day or is it once a week?
It's only 2 hours a week over the 6 weeks.
Okay, wow. Yeah. Okay, so it's totally, you know,
it's
anyone
manageable.
could do it.
Yeah, it's manageable. And it's, you know, we do it for women, we do it for moms, but you're seeing a whole community of designing your life. You're seeing it within doctors, you're seeing it within men, like in the
And it's men too.
Yeah,
it's men
yeah.
too. So it's anyone can do it.
Anyone can do it. Absolutely. And we've just done a little bit more with women because, you know,
Of course,
we bring
it's
them
Crunch
together.
Moms,
It's
yeah.
like-minded women, but anyone can do it. And you really see your life in a different way. And we believe that designing your life coaching, which is manageable in terms of how you do it, what you put in is what you get out, but combining that with being part of a membership network to grow your network, figure out what you want to do. It just, those combine, and that kind of positive vibe and energy that the community is all about will lead you to opportunities. And we've seen it. We've seen like huge change in the women. Yeah, I could go on about all of them.
That's amazing.
And that's what keeps me going as an entrepreneur. I'm doing something that's making an impact. And for me, it's extremely rewarding. And it's just like in work, right? You know, we do it for the money, yes, but also we want to do the work that's going to make a difference or have impact. And
Of course.
For me, we're touching on real women, real people, and it's super inspiring to do this kind of work.
Yeah, I just seeing how it's grown. I mean, I've kind of, you know, observed it over since you started. It's crazy, you know. I mean, like the summit that you just did this week. I mean, we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but it was so well attended. There was a real, you could feel the energy, you know, in the videos and the posts and things, and you know the sponsors that you have, and like the goodie bags were ridiculous, and they have so many good. It's a really high level event.
It's organic too.
Yeah,
you know, since we've started, I think we only did our first like Instagram posts with a sponsored boost for like a few dollars, but before that everything was organic. So it was just through our friends and family first, and then they would come to events, bring in another friend, and you know, another friend would post about it, and then their friend would see on Instagram and join. And so 6,000 plus women, like part of our community, all organic. And, you know, that's just the start of it. Right?
I know. Yeah. So it's still quite nascent. I mean, it's just a few years old.
Yeah. It's only been 2 years that we've been active. I feel like the first year doesn't count because it was COVID. So you couldn't have more than 7 people around a table. Yeah. I think our first summit helped create a name for us.
And then it went from there.
And so we have we're excited about what's to come in 2024. I think it's, you know, there's a lot of amazing opportunities. And as you mentioned, there's great sponsors and partners that we're speaking to, you know, like I think the biggest milestone for us recently was having Visa come on board, you know.
That's such a stamp of approval. I mean, you've got a leading global brand that's like,
and they're great people to work with, and they truly believe in what we're trying to do. And they want to be part of this with us. That's same amazing. With Rio Bank, you know,
I love Rio Bank.
They're so good.
They're so cool. I mean, they've just come out of nowhere, and you know, I completely think what they're doing is amazing.
When we first started, I think when women would do their talks, they would say the biggest pain point they would always have was setting up a business bank account. And when I signed up for Rio, I just thought this was too good to be true.
I know. One of my friends, Abby, she has started her own business recently, and I was talking to her about like sort of through a friend who was asking me for advice, and she was like, "You have to sign up to Rio Bank. You just do this, and it's in 3 steps, and you've got your bank account."
And the next day, there was like a card delivered with our name on it. It felt so official. And they're so great to work with, and they're really they're gonna do good things. We're excited about what we're gonna offer some of our members for working. Yeah,
that's so cool.
I mean, it's all about good user experience, customer experience, and we were a client that just had great experience, and so that just led to these opportunities. I was shouting out about it before they were a partner because I was telling everyone in the network, if there's someone that you need to work with, it's this bank here.
I suppose it takes somebody a bit disruptive sometimes to come in and kind of shake things up a bit, but it's a great thing for women working here and trying to do their own thing, like entrepreneurs
business
like
bank
you.
Accounts or personal bank accounts.
That's what I have, a personal one, but you know, it seems like for businesses, for you know, kind of entrepreneurs, it makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, and I think every time I speak to different like partners of ours or different organizations, they want to make things better and easier for women, whether it's around bank accounts or starting a business or getting the right support. Everyone, you know, we're providing the tools for the women, and these different organizations also want to provide the tools. So they want to work with us to make sure that the right tools are being given to women, whether it's around learning about their finances, whether it's around setting up a website or their business, or coaching on how to approach their career or finding the right opportunities. So there's like a full spectrum of things that we're offering to women, but it's at the end of the day, it's just making sure that we can help women with their well-being around career, motherhood, and then
balancing it,
and
right?
balancing
I was
it
going to
and
ask
setting
you,
boundaries 'cause it's hard.
That's hard. And I wanted to ask you, how do you, I mean, you founded this organization with that kind of ethos in mind. How do you balance, how do you maintain, are there any practices that you specifically have that you think would be helpful to share?
Absolutely. So when I first started, I just remember doing everything. Like, you're doing everything at the one go. And so in the beginning, I had to take a step back and say, I need to theme and organize my days. So when you're starting something, I would say on Mondays, it's about community and membership. On Tuesdays, it's marketing. Wednesday, it's about partnerships. Thursday is finances.
So you group everything in.
Yeah. So I themed everything, and you're kind of doing everything. So I would set days. Otherwise, you're just kind of running.
You're all over the place.
You're just
you
all
don't
over
know
the
what
place.
you're
Exactly. And so by
That's
setting those themes, that helped in the beginning. And then it became, I was kind of still figuring out motherhood, right? So how to spend my time, how to parent, how to connect with my child, how to manage household responsibilities, communicate with my husband about how we approach it. And so then I started time blocking moments with my son. That I would just block time and set clear boundaries of, this is the time I would take him to the pool, or this is the time, if he wasn't in school yet, that I would spend with him. And then this is the time that my husband and I would discuss, what he needs to do and what I need to do. And that takes a few years to figure out.
To get it into a kind of momentum and routine.
There's constant change happening, right, in the business. And there's constant change happening, like in your family dynamic. And then you get pregnant again, and then you have to go through it again. And so I would say that was kind of my hack in the beginning. And then now I would say I still stick to that as well. But it's now knowing where I spend my time and where my partner, co-founder, spends her time, and it's just the dynamic of working together.
Okay, so that you kind of optimize how everything's
and how
going.
we work together, and just using different tools and how we approach productivity. Because at the end of the day, it's just being focused and consistent. And so, we had to make some decisions around childcare services because
both of you have kids.
Yeah, we both my husband and I are working all the time. And so I couldn't have my kids be picked up at 12. And then can you imagine like having to do pickup at 12 in the middle of the day and then have the kids all around. And so it was just setting some clear expectations around childcare as well. So that
with you and your co-founder, and then obviously
with my co-founder and with my husband
as
well on certain times so that we could spend on working. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do you, so like I always, it's obviously the LifeLab, we're trying to elicit wisdom out of our guests who've achieved remarkable things, and obviously what you've done with Crunchmoms is pretty spectacular in such a short space of time. Has it changed what your perception or what success means to you, Julie, like from when you started to now? What would you say, and you're still so young, I mean, you've got years ahead of you of like doing amazing things. What do you think success means to you now, and do you think that's going to change?
Yeah, it's definitely changed a lot, and it changes as
you became a mom
grow and as a person personally, but also changes with the business. I think when I first started Crunchmoms, I was super excited. I was like, oh, the career success. The success can be, when we reach this number or we fundraise this much. And then as you pivot and you grow the business, success is definitely, it's a very personal thing, but it changes, right? So I would say for me, if I can, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs in this community that reach burnout and that just overdo it. And
really?
People in the corporate world,
Oh God, in the corporate world, definitely. Yeah.
And so I think first is I've had to say I have to take care of myself and my well-being because, I still have to be a mother. I still have to be a wife, a daughter.
And just healthy.
An entrepreneur and healthy, right? And so when you see that people start to look unhealthy, I just think that is a clear success mark. So making sure that I sleep, making sure that I exercise, and that I set these boundaries for my life, because you just overdo it. I think when you're in your 20s without like all these other responsibilities, you overwork yourself. But
I completely agree with you. And even if you don't have kids, I mean, we were talking before about people who get sick, And I think it's because they don't set, that's partly because they didn't maybe, they felt so much pressure that they don't take that time to just say, no, I need to sleep. I need to sleep for 7 hours, or I need to sleep for 8 hours. That's what I need to do a really good job or to be at my best. And you're better off being at your best than some zombie or half version of yourself trying to do everything.
Exactly. And it catches up, right, in time. And, we have, as they say, 100 years to live. And it's might be a cheesy line, but it is a marathon and not a sprint, right?
Yeah.
Start trying to achieve things like within the week or within the day, you just overdo it. And so for me, I've learned that this past year, just going from 1 kid to 2, that, I have to look after myself before I can look after others. I need to
proper
sleep.
diet.
I definitely need exercise. I need to look after my nutrition. And, this is one of the topics at Summit. There's different things about women and their midlife transformation that really impacts work when they reach their 40s and their 50s.
Oh, okay.
And maybe that's for another conversation.
But that was a really big topic at the Summit.
Yeah, nutrition and perimenopause, menopause, and movement and mental resilience and aging. It all links up. And so for me, that's an important success metric. But it's also just setting success metrics in the sense of hitting milestones that are reasonable for the business, setting clear KPIs. But I think what I've taken away is you're in control of your own life and destiny, right? Don't let other people impact it. Other people kind of dictate what you do, whether you're in a corporate environment, whether it's at home, whether it's in the workplace. And I think that's something that I took away. It's advice that was given to me when I was in my 30s, in my corporate role.
So that was the best. Do you think that was the sort of like the advice that shaped your career the most? What is that?
Shaped my career the most? I don't.
Or the
maybe.
best advice?
I think it kind of triggered something, right? It was like you're in control of your own destiny, so create that. And I think that was something that I always refer back to, because I think when you're starting out in your 20s, you think, if you have a bad line manager or you have a bad team member, that okay, well, I have to listen to them, or, I have to figure something else out. Or perhaps, you're working and you think, I have to just work until this 1 year and then ask for this promotion and this next job opportunity. And then year 2, and, how can I get it when I'm at the age of 28? And so what I realize is you are definitely in control. You have to ask for it. You have to work hard for it. Obviously, you have to prove it, right? You don't have to, there's no like loopholes of getting around. But if you do good work, you stay with your values. But you can be in control if there's someone that doesn't work well with you. You are in control of how you approach that. If you want to try entrepreneurship or have your passion project, then do it. There's nothing stopping you. And so that's something that I always remind myself, like if not now, then when, but then also you're in control. So if there's something that is just in the way, then, try to figure out a way to navigate your life because it is yours.
I think that's a really good one, because even I've heard people at all different stages, not just younger, beginning their careers, sort of feeling, obliged to do something, like, oh, I can't leave because I have X, Y, Z, or in work. I
need to have this many years before I can leave this place.
And I need to do, this is, maybe they've been somewhere a while and they sort of feel obligated, and I mean that's in one way that can be a little bit true, but I also think it's so important that it is your life. At the end of the day, if you're not when you're 90 or 100, you're not going to look back and be like, I'm so glad I stayed to make other people happy. We all have responsibilities and have to be like true to your values. Like you're saying, if you kind of promise to do something, you do it, but at the same time you can't just sacrifice your own happiness to complete some kind of obligation that you think you owe to someone else. That's also important.
Definitely. And I think this advice was given to me from someone that was a mentor that was quite senior in the corporate world. And I think when you get mentors and you get to know them personally or professionally, that, they're people too. And, and you hear of stories of people just working until like they're unwell in the workplace. And you have to think, is that the life you want to live? So if you take care of your health, you look after your mental well-being, you do the basics that we need to do, but then also, don't feel like you're stuck, whether it's in a marriage or in a workplace or, you can get out of things. Yeah.
That's brilliant. I think that a lot of people need to hear that, even from my own experience of being around you know, people that I interact with through, whether it's work or whether it's socially or, you know, through my networks.
Yeah.
A lot of people need to hear that again and again. It's not just something that sometimes you hear that and you're like, you're right. And then you go back into your world and you get lost in it again.
Yeah.
But it's so important, you know. That's a really good message.
Yeah, and I think that's why I really loved when we started our Designing Your Life program, because I think a lot of it is a mindset thing, right? You say, oh, but I can't do that because of XYZ. You come up with the problems. But then when you start to look at things differently, I mean, opportunities come, right? If you come in with that right mindset, you will figure out the right opportunities for yourself. And that's what a lot of these women have done for themselves. Yeah, they've started like, well, how am I supposed to do this? I can't leave this job, or, you know, my kid's here. But then, man, they've all created some pretty amazing opportunities for themselves.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That is so good. And where is the course? It's in Dubai, or is it online, or is it in
Dubai,
person?
and it can be online. So we host it here in Dubai at a beautiful place called Pico. Yeah, it's a really nice, like very calm environment. We have this like upstairs loft that we hosted. It can be done virtually. We're going to be doing a lot more hybrid as well.
Okay.
And I mean, it's really helped people. Like, I believe in trusting this process because it has worked.
And it's just once a week for 6 weeks.
Once a week for 6 weeks.
And then you check in and things.
Once a day for 6 weeks.
Or sorry, once a day.
Yeah,
once a day for 6 weeks.
Once a week, yeah, for 6 weeks.
I confused you there. I made it sound complicated. But so, and it's here in Dubai, and you can also do it online.
Yes.
So anyone in the world could do it, really, if they wanted. They could.
And we have a coach that's been certified by the professors
at
themselves.
Stanford.
Yeah, at Stanford.
Wow, that's amazing. And Julie, I wanted to ask you a little bit about, if, you know, I mean, like, I was going to ask you, what are you most proud of? But I think that's, I mean, obviously your kids, but career-wise, it's being a founder of, I'm just presuming, but.
No, I mean, let me reflect on it for a moment. What am I most proud of in my career? I think definitely starting something and yourself. Seeing the impact. Yeah, starting something on my own at a time that you're juggling a lot, right? But seeing the impact that we've made in a short period of time, that's definitely something is very rewarding. And I would say, you know, different milestones in my career that led me to where I am today, right? So I think just following my gut instincts, having these mentors that gave me these opportunities when I was in the corporate world, that allowed me the exposure that I got. And I think you have to take these opportunities and learn from them and keep going. Because I think if you just take these traditional linear routes of just kind of being kind of behind the laptop or just sticking to what you think you have to do, I kind of just kept challenging the opportunities. What can I do next? What's in store for me? You know, doing good work, but then also I was always ambitious. I kept going and looking, and I think that hasn't stopped in me. It's that's definitely something I'm proud of. I think. Yeah. I think Crunchmoms has been right now to date probably the biggest achievement.
Yeah. And so you want to grow the network. What's next for Crunchmoms? I mean, do you have any?
It's definitely growing the network more. I mean, when I go out, sometimes people are like, "Are you Crunchmoms?" Like, that's
crazy.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, it's really crazy. I'll go out to eat, and then someone's like, "Oh, are you from Crunchmoms?" Or "I've seen you. I know a lot about Crunchmoms." So when people that you don't know are talking about it and come up to you,
that must feel amazing.
Cool. Yeah, it's nice. It's weird. I'm like, oh no, but it's a nice feeling. What's next for Crunchmoms is
just growing the network.
Yeah, it's growing. We want to make the impact in the MENA region. So
across MENA.
Yeah. So we've done a lot in Dubai, you know, Abu Dhabi. We want to look at Saudi. Yeah.
Saudi would be amazing for Crunchmoms.
So it's figuring out what's next for this, but then also growing our products, our services and offerings, and working a lot more with big organizations. That's the big one.
Okay.
Yeah, because we can tackle a lot of the women in our community and support them, but there are a lot of women in the workplace that just don't have that time. You know, they can't just come and let go of, like, on a Monday morning or in the middle of the day.
Totally
just like you.
That. Yeah.
And so we want to go straight to the companies to say, this is what we can do.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah.
Even doing, even online stuff as well, or like with corporates, that could be.
Yeah, and it's doing it in the right way, because I think sometimes online it's a different type of connection.
No, that's true,
But basically we know there's something there, because there's a lot of great female talent that we can support, and it's going to the right people within the organization.
And this is always a difficult question, but I like to ask people if you have any regrets.
Yeah, I was thinking about this when you shared the question. I don't think I have any regrets. No.
That's good.
I think it's kind of what I alluded to before is I've stayed close to the values and knowing I'm a good person. I'm doing the right thing.
Do you think that your parents instilled that strong sense of value? I mean, because
I think
it seems like you had that solidly.
Yeah, because if I reflect back, like in growing up in Texas and my parents, you know, I have Vietnamese parents that immigrated from Vietnam to the U.S. and I didn't realize it when I was a kid, but now when I look at it, they worked hard. They worked extremely hard to provide. They came with nothing. They made decisions around education, being in the right neighborhood, community, to give the right opportunities for my brother and I. And, you know, he's doing very well. I'm making an impact, you know? And so I think my mother is definitely a big inspiration. She's a very good person and she was always looking after everyone and doing good for everyone. And I think recently I've seen that takes a toll on her as she's aged. And so what I've taken away from this, looking at my parents, is that, you know, you should never, you can start with nothing and create something, and you can create a great opportunity in future for yourself or for your kids. And so I think they definitely instilled those values in me. They've always challenged me to work hard and be ambitious and, you know, to just be independent as well. And, you know, coming out to Dubai by myself.
That was pretty epic at
21. Yeah. And so I think I would say my upbringing definitely played a big role in who I am. And my mother is definitely a big role model. And I've also learned a lot from seeing my parents as well and my mother. And I would say no regrets, because I just want to go to sleep at the end of the day and just know that I've made the right decision. I don't want to lose sleep over like a decision I've made for the business or people, but just knowing, okay, you're not going to see eye to eye with everyone. And I used to be someone that wanted to be friends with everyone.
I was like that too.
You're a sweetheart. And it takes a toll on us.
That was a really hard lesson for me to learn too, that you don't
have to be friends with everyone.
Sure, yeah. Like I have to make everybody happy. And I would be so upset if someone, but
and it impacts you the most.
Oh, it's horrific. Yeah.
And so there's ways of approaching it, but it was just knowing these are my values. I can go to sleep knowing I made the right decision for, I don't know, my family, whatever the scenario is, and for Crunchmoms.
You know, everything you were doing was with a good intention. Exactly. So even if someone isn't happy, there's nothing, you know, that just happens sometimes. You can't, you know, it's not because you did the wrong thing or you hurt them. It's just, you know, everything you were doing was with the right intention. So you can't feel bad then.
So if you can go to sleep knowing that, I think that's probably why I have no regrets right now.
That's really cool. Yeah. And I wanted to just ask, is there any advice that you would give to young Julie, like 21 years old, coming out here on her own with her 2 suitcases? If what would you love to say to her?
It's so funny. When I first came out here with 2 suitcases, I was sleeping in a room. I swear it was like a closet. And when I think back, I'm like, I guess that's the journey that it was smaller than you could ever imagine, but I was so chill that I was like, oh, these roommates are cool. I can sleep anywhere.
I know.
I was like, it was a pitch dark room. And so when I think back, you know, I think there's always humble beginnings.
Oh my God.
Which I very much believe in.
Yeah. I used to live in an apartment in Madrid in my first kind of job outside of university that had no tiles in the bathroom. There were like creepy crawlies.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know, but at the time you're kind of,
those are the stories you look back on.
You're kind of, you know, spending 4 hours a day on the metro teaching English at night to make enough money to pay rent and things. But it's really character building.
Yeah. So, and then I would say, you know, I worked a lot. I mean, we worked together, right?
Yes.
So we would work all the time in our 20s, but I would say that, there's much more to life than just work. I think it's important to do good work and to learn and reflect and to grow and follow those opportunities, ambition. But also there are other things in life as well, right? Different projects, different passions, family, friends, our own well-being. So I would say never forget those things. I think it's easy to forget in your 20s. It's easy to forget when you're an entrepreneur. It's easy to forget when you're a mom. But it's something that you have to just kind of carve out time for because, you know, we only have one life to live.
We only have one life to live. And any books or movies, last question, on that really impact, even one that was...
This is a hard one for me.
I know.
But I love Lost in Translation.
That's such a good movie.
I know. And every time...
Did that kind of inspire you to maybe travel or like take
maybe. I think there are these just feel-good movies with a nice storyline that every time you watch it, you could watch it 20 times. You always take away something or...
a new thing from that movie.
Yeah. So I think it's just a random one I'm throwing out there.
No,
I wouldn't say there's been one movie or one book. I barely have time to read these days, but I would say I do a lot more with like parenting books.
Yes.
So I think like...
Was there any parenting book that helped you?
It was a very basic, like easy to read, like Montessori toddler book, but I think it crafted how I approach
how you were going to
parenting, and like how my kids can approach a different curriculum, playing and growing their brain, because I learned a lot through Crunchmoms and through these books that a child's brain is fully developed at the age of 6. And so the first 6 years of their lives are extremely crucial. So just like things like screen time and how they focus and giving them opportunities to be creative. I mean, I think these books have gone a really long way in how I approach like parenting with my young kids.
That's a really good one for moms, you know, like that's a really good insight.
The first 1,000 days are like apparently quite crucial. The most I wouldn't say I'm an expert, but again, it's just through reading and being around other women in this or parents in this space to like learn how best to approach parenting. Okay. That's another conversation as well.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
But Julie, thank you so much for coming on that. I feel like we have so many more questions I want to ask you and we don't have time, but maybe we'll do it again.
I would love to.
But I really appreciate you being here. That was such a great interview and so many insightful things. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And I hope it can help inspire any of the listeners today.
I hope so.
And I really enjoyed having this conversation with you, Siobhan.
Thank you. And best of luck with Crunchmoms. And what's the website? I'm going to put it on the
Crunchmoms.com.
Crunchmoms.com.
Moms, MOMS.
And it's for women and men all over, anywhere that they're based, they can do the course, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Thanks for being here, Julie. Thanks for your time.
Much.
Thank you.
Thank you.